Thank you for joining us for this edition of Outreach News. Outreach News is a media blog program that provides awareness of and shares the stories of countless individuals and agencies who provide help to those in need.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to and or downloading to this edition of Outreach News. I'm Linda Knox, your host, and today we'll be talking about a very serious subject. The Administration of Children and Family Services state that after drug dealing, human trafficking is tied with illegal arms industry as the second largest criminal industry in the world today, and it's the fastest growing. And while we're beginning to hear more about this terrible act, it still remains a topic that most people are just not aware of, or at least they're not aware of the severity of it all. Well, today we have two special guests who are here to help enlighten us about human trafficking, or otherwise known as today's modern slavery. First, we have Ms. Melinda Kuebler. Melinda is Program Manager for the Sexual Assault Care Unit of Lorain County at the Nord Center. She does medical forensic evaluations of sexually abused children and adult patients. Melinda also gives presentations throughout Lorain County on sexual assault and human trafficking, and is one of the speaker presenters for the collaborative initiative to end human trafficking. Melinda, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we have Mr. Shawn Cleveland. Shawn is a speaker presenter for the collaborative initiative to end human trafficking. He is a licensed minister and a missionary to the nation of Mexico. Shawn has made numerous missions trips to Mexico, and from 2006 to 2008 lived in Piedras Negras, Mexico. Shawn's heart and passion is to raise awareness about human trafficking and to network with national and local groups and organizations, helping them to learn more on this subject. Shawn, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, let's start with you, Shawn. Can you tell us a little bit more about human trafficking? What's exactly the definition of this new form of crime, and what are some of the types of human trafficking are there?
Well, as you had mentioned, Linda, it's modern-day slavery, and a lot of people think that slavery ended with the Emancipation Proclamation, but there are more slaves today than there's ever been in the history of the world. And basically what we see is two types of modern-day human trafficking or slavery, and that's either forced labor or to force them into the sex trade. And basically what happens is they take people and they use either force, fraud, or coercion to get them to perform in the sex industry or in the labor industry against their own will. And basically with force, mainly in the sex trade, they'll beat the people, mainly women or young girls. They'll beat them, rape them. They'll also get them addicted to drugs so they can't run from them. With fraud, they use the promise of a good job or even marriage to get them to come, like, say, out of Mexico into the States, and when they get here, they find out they're being trafficked. And also through coercion, they threaten them. A lot of times they will threaten their family, say, we know where your family lives. If you don't comply with us, we'll attack your family. We can kill your family. And so the victim gives in. And those are the same tricks they also use for forced labor, where they basically make you into their work slave, either in somebody's house or at their job. And these are the main ways we see them exploiting the people.
Now, a lot of people, I think there's a myth that this happens normally overseas, but there's quite a few cases of human trafficking here in the United States. Is that true?
Yes, there is. Here, it's so hidden, and a lot of Americans actually turn a blind eye to it because they don't want to admit it's here. But we're hearing a lot more cases. Here in Ohio, the most famous case happened in a city called Toledo, where two young ladies, I believe they were cousins, were kidnapped. And the person who took them actually lived on the same street as one of the girls. They were just like few houses down from her house. And this happens a lot more than we want to admit. I was raised in the city of Oberlin, and last year a Chinese restaurant was raided, and there are a lot of illegal Mexican workers there being forced to work. So this happens a lot more than we want to believe here.
Wow. Now, of course, we know that is a myth that it doesn't happen in the United States, but it also happens abroad. Do you have any numbers or any information about how much trafficking is done, human trafficking is done overseas?
Well, they're saying in the world today there's at least 28 million slaves, modern-day slaves, throughout the world. Maybe about 300,000 of them are here in the United States, and that number is quickly growing. A lot of people who dealt in drugs or military weapons now find it easier to traffic people, and so this is becoming a bigger problem. It's the second biggest industry behind illegal drugs. And in this country of Mexico, where I do most of my mission work, is very prevalent because of poverty. So there are people who are willing to prostitute their own daughters or give them up to traffickers for money. And so it happens a lot more in poorer nations where people are desperate, and Mexico being a very macho society, and women aren't as esteemed there as in here in the United States, and it happens a lot more.
Wow. Okay, now the collaborative initiative to end human trafficking, can you tell us about that program and how you got involved?
The way I got involved, I'd always wanted to help in this area. It was something I wanted to do since I was a teenager, and I actually known some women who were abused and used by their parents. And so it was always in my heart to do this, and I started doing mission work when I got older, and I saw that, a lot of girls are being forced into prostitution while in Mexico. And I believe it was last winter, the Attorney General for Ohio, Richard Cordray, came to Lorain County Community College, and I went there to see him, and they had a question and answer session at the end, and I asked a question about human trafficking, and he put me in touch with one of his assistants who connected me with a lady named Karen Walsh, and Karen Walsh is the one that helped set up the Lorain County Coalition, which we're a part of now, and she referred me to where they would be meeting, and I went and I got to know her and Mindy and the other people, and here I am today working to make people aware of this crime.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Now, Melinda, you have a background in nursing and working with sexually abused individuals. I know that there are various types of human trafficking. However, I think one of the largest forms is that of the sex trafficking. What can you tell us about that form of human trafficking?
Sex trafficking is so vast. I mean, it can range from all kinds of different facets, but the main thing is prostitution. Prostitution with young ones and, up to the, adults, is that when they start out prostituting, they gain a pimp. The pimp then controls everything from there out, so which turns into trafficking. Those under the age of 18, no matter what, it's considered trafficking. And it's so easy for these young kids to be pulled into it if they're runaways, as Shawn was talking about. If they're runaways, they're dealing with displaced families, that type of thing. It's so easy for our kids to be pulled into this type of victimization.
And I know I was reading somewhere, and I don't know if that was on the Polaris Project website, where they state that I guess one of the ways that they lure them is to promise them jobs.
The promise of the young ones when they're brought into the prostitution, it's mainly because they're looking for someone to help take care of them. And the range of ages right now into human trafficking is between the ages of 12 and 14. Are there younger ages? Yes, definitely. We've seen such young ages as 4 or 5, but the average age is 12 to 14. And within 48 hours of a child or an adolescent being out on the street, if they are runaway or homeless or whatever, they're confronted by someone within 48 hours, trying to be brought into the trafficking.
Would you think that that's probably one of the largest ways that they get these individuals? They think that they're runaways, or are the largest percentage from people who actually coerce them or somehow trick them into the industry?
From my understanding, from what I've seen alone, is a large percentage of them is because they are coerced into the prostitution. I think around here locally, maybe in our area, that sort of thing, it's probably a large bit of the kids who run away, those who are most vulnerable, those who don't have that strong family background, are the ones who are being pulled into the prostitution ring. I think that has a lot to do with it. Internationally, I think it has to do with point blank that they just don't have the resources. These kids don't have the resources, and they're pretty much given up.
Yeah, I've read some pretty terrific stories about people who, and a lot of these are overseas stories where the situation is just so bad financially that maybe a relative or a friend or somebody that they know says, hey, come to this country and we'll get you a job. And then once they get there, they take their visas and their passports and they're just, stuck there, into that industry.
Right, and that's what trafficking is. Mm-hmm.